Hi, everyone, and welcome to Chai Side Chat Season 2 Special Roundtable Edition. This is an exclusive interdisciplinary talk show featuring interviews with folks about creativity, the arts, healing, personal growth, spirituality, identity, and mental and emotional well-being, among many other things. I am your host, Aishwarya, and before I introduce my guests for today's episode, I want to welcome someone who I thought I'd invite to sort of co-host and jam with me and some of the guest artists on these topics that we have planned for our roundtable today. So she has been on a previous episode of Chai Side Chats and also happens to be my dance teacher, creative collaborator, and often a partner in crime for many of my creative and artistic endeavors. Please welcome my mother, Shobha Subramanian. Hello, Mother. Thank you. And welcome back to Chai Side Chats once more.
Thanks, Aishu. Thanks, Aishu. Yeah, it's exciting to be here again. And also, I'm very, very excited to be introducing the other guests who are going to be on this show. I'm saying guests, but they are almost like my sisters because we have danced together, we have performed and choreographed and put productions together, but also seen our daughters come together on stage. So I want to introduce all the dance gurus that I have worked with from DC. Daya from Natraj School, Lakshmi Swaminathan from Natananjali, Deepti Natyabhoomi, and Lakshmi Babu, Kuchipudi Dance Academy. Like I said, these are all wonderful, talented artists and dance gurus who have committed 25 years or more of their life to serving the classical dance community of DC. But more than anything else, they are great friends, and our daughters have performed together. I am really excited to see what we're going to talk about today. Welcome, ladies.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, I just wanted to jump in. So for our listeners and our viewers, our overall sort of topic for today, we're going to be touching on things related to aging and ageism. We have a section called Trend versus Tehraav that I'm really looking forward to in our conversation, as well as, like my mom said, passing the baton onto future generations. So we are going to start with our Trend versus Tehraav section. So for our viewers and listeners who may not be familiar with the word Tehraav, it's actually a Hindi word. And it's loosely defined as like intentionality of movement with emotion and expression and appropriate pacing. And personally, I like to think of Tehraav as like the soul of dancing. And so the question to all of you is, we're now in this era of social media where we can see countless dancers posting these like 1-minute reels with very brisk and fast-paced choreography that, is very visually and physically challenging. So I'm curious to know from you all, as dancers who've been training and teaching and presenting your respective styles for a number of years, what are your thoughts on this, apparent growing prioritization of trend and athleticism over Tehraav and kind of more intentional choices and movement in the Indian dance scene specifically? So Maya, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that question or also answer it.
I was just going to sort of expand on Tehraav. I'm trying to find a parallel word in Tamil irittam. We have something called irittam, whether it is in Carnatic music or in Bharatanatyam or any other classical dance style. Nalla irittam, right? So it's like the Tehraav or the So I mean, personally, I just going to say one thing and then move on, have others pitch in. I have seen, as I have aged, the Tehraav in my own performance, and what I appreciate even when I'm watching, I'm looking for that Tehraav. I'm looking for that irittam in a good dancer on stage. And I'm trying to also encourage myself and my students to move towards that. Obviously, we are not going to give up the brisk footwork that is found in Nritta. But yes, for me, it has come with maturity. Yeah, and others, anybody else can take over.
I can start. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. So basically, in this regard, I feel I'm somebody who goes with the flow. Okay, if it's a newer generation and they're adapting to newer things, I'm game for that. But at the same time, I know that when I look back, I know where exactly I came from and what my experiences are. And these experiences take me to a different realm. So if it's like a quick choreography, I know if I understand the lyrics and I'm with the thought process, I really don't care about the nritta or the choreography. I just want to heartfully do it. So, that's where I am, and I enjoy doing it more heartfully than what I've done before. It's not in a choreography, but it's in the lyric and what it means to me. So I like to stay connected to that.
Yes, Lakshmi, I agree with you. It's a great question, Aishu. As Lakshmi said, we all know from where we came from and how we are evolving ourselves. As you said, it's very true that it is with what kind of girls we are choreographing that item that is important. But of late, I do feel faster items have their own brisk charm, the energy, it's very nice. It is very peaceful if you have strong dancers, all the movements and brisk fast. And I don't see much of the media, but yes, 1 minute fast paced and, it just hikes you up. But with maturity and evolving and, having choreographed dance ballets and all that, you feel there is a softness in your heart to do more of the abhinaya pieces with handling it with more authority or understanding the root of the song. Why, if we are taking a Purandardasar song or if we are taking any Andal, any of the songs, in what context they wrote it, how they didn't write it. It was an outpour for them. And can we touch an essence of that lyric in our abhinaya? And sometimes it is very moving and touching, as we spoke. Cannot finish that choreography. It chokes you, it just melts you. It just absorbs. And it's a beautiful feeling. And I thank God for taking into that realm of that experience. And it is wonderful. The evolution is so beautiful, and I'm going with the flow too.
So it's actually a very interesting question because it makes me think from different perspectives. Trend versus Tehraav. When I started choreographing, I used to use all these fusion songs. And I had faced questions from some of my peers saying, how can you dilute it like that? How can you choreograph to fusion songs? Well, for me, it was always my personal connection. If I connected to that song, be it classical or a fusion music, I would be able to choreograph to it and I would be able to teach it. So that is the root for me, the connection. I need to be able to connect either as a choreographer or as a performer or as an audience. So I do see all these, and then of course we grew up with dance as a solo practitioner, dance form. But then when I started doing group choreography, it excited me because I was doing something that was completely different from what I had learned. Of course, growing up, I did learn a few group choreography items from my guru, but it was not the norm. The norm was just to learn the dance as a solo dance. If you're in a group of 8 girls, you're all doing the same thing. There was no group choreography format. So when I did that, it excited me. So I also think it is the phase of life that you are in. As I grow older, I feel that while I enjoy all this group choreography, it has been taken to the next level. It's just a matter of trying to do formations. that does not excite me unless it comes with a reason for it, behind it. It should not be done just because, oh, it looked cool. That should not be the factor. For me, you should never lose the soul of the dance, whether you're doing a group choreography, a solo choreography, whether you are trying to experiment with different concepts. I always look for the connection. Does that appeal to me? Does that connect with me more than appeal to me? Does that choreography resonate with me? So there have been some of these fast-paced reel that you see on Instagram and on social media. I'm like, why are you just doing this for just the effect? Because it didn't connect with me. Whereas there have been some which were like, wow, how beautifully within that 1 minute they have been able to bring forward that concept. So I think it is how much thought has gone behind it and how much of the soul is reflected in the choreography, whether it is fast-paced or slow. I have also seen slow-paced abhinayas which have not connected with me, because I didn't feel personally that it was coming from a space of thought and involvement. It was just done for show and effect. So I think from my point of view, whether it is trend or Tehraav, what appeals to me is to see the soul behind the dance and if it resonates and connects with me personally.
Yeah, so from my viewpoint, I agree with everything that everybody else has said till now. I also want to say there is something called lokadharmi, meaning that if if you have an A.R. Rahman come to Filene Center at the Wolf Trap, they can fill it. Whereas even if you bring the best, solo dancer, Bharatanatyam dancer at Filene Center would be really hard to fill the stage. It's just about what is art versus, versus like film, or I mean, not film exactly, like Bollywood music, something like that. I think that speed in itself is okay for that space. And there is Tehraav has its own space. So just like you see all those beautiful reels, hundreds of reels with all these fast-paced movements and all of those things, similarly you will see beautiful short clips with so much Tehraav. There are some beautiful clips that are you're like, wow, this is amazing. So I think that it's also what you choose to see. So Instagram is very interesting because if you're seeing something, you see similar things, right? So it depends on what you're seeing. And personally, like we all choreograph to the student and the dancer or the occasion, right? And like Lakshmi Swaminathan was saying, you at different times you're experimenting with different things. But my younger daughter is very, very athletic. She's a gymnast, she's a cheerleader, she can turn around and do all kinds of things. But when do you make her do it in the dance? You don't just make her do it because she can jump, right? Or she can turn around. You don't do it then. You do it for an appropriate thing. So I think usage, where you do it, how you choreograph it, and how you bring it together is what is the most important thing, I think. And everything has its own place. And I think everybody has to find their space, just like Lakshmi and Daya said, everybody, like Shobha said. And I think each dancer, choreographer, each person has to go through that journey.
Totally, yeah. I think what a lot of you mentioned, especially about like choreographing for the dancer, or like Deepti Aunty, where you were saying about like your daughter can do all of these things, like physically she is capable of executing these types of movements, but just because she's physically capable doesn't mean you insert it in like every other line or something of a song, right? So another sort of follow-up question I have, since all of you have been teaching and kind of engaging in this practice, I see like it is a practice, right? Of like creating choreography that suits your student. How do you figure that balance out? Because this is actually something that another dancer in a previous roundtable, Kriti Vasudevan, talked about in terms of solo versus group, where it's like different where you're doing a solo for yourself versus if you're setting a solo piece on another dancer or on a student. So I wanted to delve a little bit more deeper into that, since that's something we touched on here, of like, how do you figure that out? How do you decide what kind of approach or what specific techniques to incorporate based on the individual dancer? Like, what are things that you're kind of looking out for?
Okay, I guess I'll go first. As an answer to that question, yes, definitely. I think when I teach a student, for instance, when I'm training someone for her Arangetram, I look at her strengths and weaknesses, and obviously I want to highlight her strengths. But at the same time, if she has a weak spot, I want to make sure she overcomes that. Maybe her Abhinaya is poor, but I want to push her in that direction to come out and give her best. Maybe that's not her strength, but she has to have some basic proficiency to show some Abhinaya. But maybe her strength is Nritta. So I will probably focus more on rhythm heavy pieces so that her Margam comes out, showing her in the best light. So I kind of tailor to a certain extent. Obviously, we have to make sure all of them fulfill the basic technical, they have to have some basic technique in all of the areas. But I do like to do this, and I also like to pick songs that lend themselves to such a margam. So I have had students where I try to do just more nritta and very minimal abhinaya, or vice versa. There is a student who is probably not very athletic and she can't do heavy varnam. So I make her varnam a little bit lighter, but give more of sanchari in that. So yeah, just tailoring it to suit the student. I love to do that. And I think that's the way that we should, because I can't expect what I learned from my teachers. It's very hard to expect that I can set the same choreography on my students and expect them to do full justice the way we used to dance in India. So
I agree with you, Shobha. I think each individual is different, and how I would dance something, somebody else would dance it very differently, because you have to take it this way. So I always look at the child, and you have seen the child grow in front of you. So you kind of see the nature of the child, you see how she is, and what like you said, attitudes and everything. And then some things you feel like you can challenge the child to take it. And also, depending on what language they speak and, all of those kind of things, you try and, mold the child towards doing those things. So I think it's very much individualistic, even though we do the group stuff, but when it comes to an individual person and dancer, what somebody who, I cannot imagine myself like a Shiva. I can only imagine myself as a Parvati. I am the Lasyan part of the, Tandavam kind of thing. So each of us have our own inbuilt personalities. Yes, because of that doesn't mean we can't do something else. But I think that's how I look at a student to, groom her in a certain way.
So I can go next. I really don't think there is anything different I can say from what Shobha and Deepti have already said, because if you are a good teacher, that's what you would do, is try to bring out the strengths of your student in a performance and not highlight their weaknesses. I try to, if you're talking about Arangetram, I try to choose pieces in the language that the child might be more familiar with, so that they can connect a little bit more. If it's like a Tamil kid, most of the pieces might be Tamil. If it's a Telugu kid, most of the pieces might be in Telugu. If it's like a Hindi speaking child, I try to bring more, so that extra level of connection is there for them, that okay, I understand this. It's not like a completely unfamiliar language where I have to learn what each word means. I know more or less. So that kind of gives them a little more ease in how they perform. And yes, it's true what Shobha said. We try to push them out of their boundaries a little bit, so that they do expand and they do try to work a little bit harder, and then just don't be complacent in their strengths and not work towards their weaknesses. But that is also to a certain extent only, because you don't want to push so much that they are unable to deliver, and that negatively impacts them too. So it's like a fine balance. You have to judge what works for that particular student when you're choreographing for them or teaching them items.
I do agree with every single points you all have shared, because that's what we are all experiencing. For me, when the kid comes and says, "Auntie, I want to do an arangetram," first, the song selection itself is a process for me. I ask, what is your favorite god? And then I know if the child has already been in part of some, like Balavikas or Chimya Mission, something, they have an awareness of our culture a lot more. So I delve into all that, knowing them. And so the song selections are done, and I ask, who's your favorite god? And let's try to, so I want to involve them a lot more, the family more, or ask what their family god, the Kula Devam. So that we have a song on them, a different language. I say, let's not keep the audience, because each child has a different type of audience. So you need to cater to the audience part of it. And also the items should be that the student is able to carry it with some amount of challenge. And I always say, body is your instrument in dance. And when you are dancing in that space, make sure like you don't press wrong key notes like in a piano. You need to know your body awareness, and that's the whole journey of a dancer when you are coming for an arangetram or something. Until when they are learning pieces, they don't understand, though we would have explained and had a storytelling class narrating what that item is, what that piece should look like, and paint that picture. I say, if you're going to paint this picture in a canvas, what would you do, Kanna? So imagine with your body in that space, you're going to paint that picture of 1,000-year-old Ramayana Katha or a Mahabharata Katha or something. Those body languages should change. So there is a lot of things we are giving them with the culture base, with the song base, with the audience. So there is a lot to go, and how much we feel that the journey of that whole Arangetram, they have understood the subtle nuances of the dance, just not the Nrita piece or the Abhinaya piece. There is so much more into learning one item. So I tell them, I know today when I teach the item, it's about, just getting through that. And just after 3-4 months, when you touch that same item, see where you are in that item. That's the growth you want to see, or challenge yourself, so that if you're weak in Nrita, develop that more. If you're weak in your Abhinaya, develop that more. So balance it out, and that's when you try to become somehow, beginning to be a complete dancer. You're just entering into that threshold. So it's and that bonding also has to happen. If the student is not able to connect also with the teacher, how much ever you put that item into that child's brain, she pushes back more. So first we need to do all those connection part in this kind of era, which we never had learning in our days. It was as simple. It's now become a little bit more complicated, but it is not complicated. The kids also want that connection, but it's just we have to know their mental, oh, today they wrote a SAT exam and came, so I know this class is going to be a little up and down. But then I say, come on, forget everything. This is your movement break. Just take it, because you can take dance as however you want. You come as a prayer, come do it as a prayer. You want as a movement break, take it. You just want as an art class, come and take it as an art class. So that day, what mood the child is, we need to see the child's face when she enters that door. And that's how I handle the kids, because it's a very different generation. We are now dealing with all their peer pressures and so much of mental health. But definitely at the end, the fulfillment as a teacher and the student is when they are done, the tears or the joy that they achieved is the Purnatvam, I feel. Somewhere this child has, taken that baby step to understand what this dance is. So that's what I feel to share in this connection.
So beautifully said by everyone. And each time I was experiencing the same, and we all do the same thing, the languages, where the child comes from and what their learning process is, how advanced and how good they are in Abhinaya or Nritta, and we take up all of those things. But I thought maybe I should bring something a new layer to this conversation. My first introduction to choreography was, of course, in my dance school when I started learning with no questions asked, just learned it point blank. But coming back to when I look at the choreographies now, it's like it was tailor-made. Every one of them was so tailor-made, especially in Kuchipudi. We do the same Krishna Shabdam, we do the Atana Jati Swaram, we teach the Hindolam Tilana. So it's very, very common. I don't want to say the word common, but everybody kind of takes that teaching repertoire, introduces that to the student. But when you look back at it, it was so tailor-made for that particular student by the guru who choreographed it. And you need to understand where the guru was coming from, what the time in those days was, and what their challenges were, and what they wanted to prove or say to the audiences of that day. And all said and done, the choreographies are so beautiful, and it has to now fit into your body, and it may not fit, really speaking, because what is the process that the dancer went through in those days, and how much of commitment, how much of dedication was given. I don't see that much of dedication coming from many students, because they lived a life of passion. They lived one-minded, one path. It was just one path. Now we have so many different paths. At least I'm in so many different directions, and I see my students also are all over the place. But if we can focus in one single context, I think we can all do justice to what we intend to do.
Yeah, I love everything that everyone has said. I think it's been such a rich, we're like peeling the layers of the onion, right? I think that's also kind of my intention with Tri-Side Chats. Like every topic is so broad intentionally because we can go in so many different directions. I wanted to go back to something, Dayanti, that you had mentioned, that, you tell your students that when you are dancing, the body is your medium, right? The body is kind of the way that you are expressing and communicating and doing the storytelling. And unlike the soul, which one might argue is ageless, the reality is that the physical body also ages and changes over time, and that is just a natural part of human development. So since all of you are very experienced in this field, I wanted to hear about your personal relationship to aging as dancers, and how does that show up in and inform the way that you approach your teaching and your performance and your relationship to creativity in general. So anybody who wants to take that question.
I just enjoy dancing like never before. And though I'm easily satisfied by my student dancing in front of me, I know it is not complete. And I know that they have to take their own experiences and reach to that point. So each one's learning process and enlightenment comes in their own way at their own time. So the blossoming happens externally, and then it goes internally. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I know it's more challenging to take those tough moves, and the stamina is not quite there, I have to admit, but I'm still good. I'm a dancer and I love it.
Beautiful, Lakshmi. Yeah, I wanted to just put it out there about aging, right? I mean, I've had this conversation with many people, and they seem to believe classical dancers are ageless because they say, oh, you guys are able to dance. Like we have our gurus who are in their 80s and they're still dancing. And there is something about classical dance that keeps you from, aging, like physically, mentally, whatever. That is not entirely true. We all have bodies that are heading towards, but then I think it's the attitude, that the fact that we have trained ourselves and we like to think that we are performing an art form that is so spiritual, so divine, and connects us with the ageless, the divine Paramatma. And you kind of imbibe that absolute and infinite consciousness each time we get out and dance. And when I perform with my students, so I try to still keep dancing even if my students are on stage. I can see that I am having to really work double hard to keep up with the stamina of the younger ones. But I also like to think, and they've told me, my students also feel challenged that when they see that teacher is dancing with them, they are like awed by that. And they're like, oh, auntie, we have to keep up with you in whatever way they mean. I guess the maturity or the depth of the Tehraav that we bring to our dance. So I think it works both ways when I dance with my students. I don't think of it as a problem, but I also feel like, yes, it is not easy dealing with a body that is aging. I'm not able to do like Mandi Adavus and everything like today, like I used to be able to do, but that will not stop me from dancing, like dancing. I just have changed the attitude, the intention. I'm not going to use my body and work like an athlete, dance from within, from my soul. That's just the way I think I approach.
Lovely. If I may go next. I actually started learning dance when I was 4 years old. So this Vijayadashami, dance would have been in my life for 50 years. So when I think about that, that's like, wow, that's huge. And growing up, I performed a lot. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. My dance guru's niece and I were of pretty much the same age, and she used to call us kotamali and kargapalai, curry leaves and coriander leaves that you can put in everything. So even if we had 6 or 7 days of annual shows, we would dance every day, at least one item, So I have done a lot of dancing, performing, I mean. And when I was young, it excited me because I loved the concept of getting dressed and going up on stage and then, doing something completely different from normal life that you would normally do. And of course, over the course, I have done, like I did work for the young audiences. So I have been performing a lot. And as I get older, I find that the reason for why I find dance meaningful in my life has shifted from performing and being in the public eye to being a spiritual journey. So, and of course, like you all said, my body is extremely uncooperative now because of my knees, and I can't even do Murumandi. At least you're doing Mandi Adava, Shobha. So dance, I have like completely stopped performing, but I cannot say I have completely stopped dancing because you can never take dance out of me. It's in my body and soul. So even this morning, I was like listening to Kanikanum Neram because Vishu is coming, right? And I was just performing in my mind, all the movements. I was not physically dancing, but I was dancing when I was listening to them. I was doing Kanikanum Neram. I could see myself dance. Kamala Netrande. I was dancing even though physically I was not. So that is where I am in my journey with dance now, where it is extremely spiritual. I'm getting choked up, sorry.
100%, Lakshmi. I think we all are in that journey. As you said, COVID taught a lot of things also for me. I have not been dancing for the past 10 years, but enough performances. And what I was seeing is when the COVID time, when we are all hibernating, I was just seeing all the pamphlets and reviews of all that. And as you said, so many performances in front of celebrities, presidents, all this. And then you look back at that journey and say, wow, have we done so much? You're looking through, and then our body, 5 Thandavam in one dance ballet. How did we do that? All that I was just thinking even few months back, And since my fracture and all that, still more slowed down. with dance. But as you said, we cannot stop. My dance, every day I dance, even when I'm cooking in the kitchen. The music is at the background. I get up, dance. I see this Krishna or whatever there it is. I move my body, I dance. I finished a big dance in front of 1,000 people in Kennedy Center. That's how I'm feeling in my brain, because it will be a kitchen place. It's just a kitchen space. That song would have gone, and I'm just dancing with the song with this karandi or something within my hand. I finish the dance. Then halfway I cannot finish it. I just sing this dance in my mind and dance it in my mind. That's what is happening. It has diffused into ourselves. We cannot now see our life without that. And not just a dance as it is taking us in as Shobha said, that Jivatma Paramatma concept, like, you forget your Deha Buddhi Nenu Kahi, you forget your body awareness. And when we go to show the kids that scene, she says, Daya aunty, how are you so light on the feet when you have not even danced? I say, Kana, you dance 4 hours. I am mentally dancing with you. After 4 hours, my body is aching, my mind is tired, because though I'm not physically getting up and on the floor or dancing that whole 4 hours, internally you are performing that moves, and every single part of the body, that like the key note in a piano, you start being outwardly, you start analyzing and being mindfully aware of even the rib cage, how it has to move, what you have to do. It starts becoming to that subtle nuances. You start carrying it in your body, and that slowly you forget that body awareness and then go to the next level of connecting to that song or that whatever you call it as. You're just in a different plane. And it is intoxicating, it is beautiful, it's an experience. And that is what I tell my students, girls, just coming, dancing and moving your body without mindfulness. It's a moving meditation, Kanna.
It's been lovely to hear everybody else speak. And my earliest memory of Padma Bhushan Dr. Venkat Lakshma, who was my guru's guru and who was Asthana Vidwan at the Mysore court. She danced at the Mysore court for 30 years. She was in her 80s. I was very young, and I remember her sitting. She had a total, she was, she was an older woman in her 80s. She was sitting, and she did Javali, Matanado Mohanangane. And she just one line, and they were singing it in different sangatis, and she was doing it in different ways. And as a young girl, you thought that dance was all beauty and, you had to be this way. And I remember sitting there watching her dumbstruck, because what she was doing, I felt that I could never do in my life. I was like, oh my God, this is something so amazing. So somewhere in that young mind of mine, I knew that dance didn't just mean something which is, perfect or bodily, perfect or whatever. And today I see my guru doing the same. She's sitting and she's doing Ashtapatis and Javlis, and, in her late 70s, she's still doing Natwangam and she's teaching. And sometimes when I feel I'm doing the same thing again and again, why am I reinventing the wheel? Why am I teaching dancers again and again? And then I look to her and she's my inspiration. And I think that especially with Indian classical dance, yes, age, obviously jumping up and down or doing, full varnam with the same vigor that a younger dancer could do may not be possible. But I think that there is something called that, like the Tehraav we were talking about. There is something that has been taken in each of our souls that comes out in the dancing. Even I'm choking up for some reason. That, I feel for me, I'm dancing the best now. Whether I'm performing or not, I feel that even one tattei taha, right? I'm looking at the hand, I'm looking here. I feel the connect with the tattei taha. And I'm telling my students that, and they were like, I know they were looking at me a little incredulously and saying, what is she telling me? But, there's so much meaning in a tattei taha. So, yeah, I think, yes, age is relevant. Age is relevant. to a certain extent. And if you talk about it from the Indian context, I think that it is not fair for the younger dancers not to be given chances, which I think now people are being given chances, and especially because of the internet and online and everything like that, everybody is able to showcase their talent in some form or the other. And it shouldn't be that only the older people or the greater dancers or the more experienced dancers get space, but we have to give space to people who can even just sit and show us Matanado Mohanangani in 25 different ways, because there is an audience for that too.
Something that I am reminded of, my guru Dhananjayan sir used to say that there are 4 parts to learning. Okay, you guys might have heard of this. The first part is what the teacher directly teaches you. We go to class, we learn and come back. The second part is how we repeat that and practice and internalize and embody that and make it our own. The third part is watching our classmates or peer or other people. You learn from watching. And the fourth most important thing, according to me, which based on the conversation we are having here, is our own life experiences. And that's why I think when I'm doing a Javali today or a Padam today, I choke up. I did not choke up at 20 when I did it. But over the years, my life experiences, my relationships, whatever life has taught me and thrown at me, I have matured and I'm pouring all of that into this piece that I'm doing today. So experience. So these 4 things together is what makes a very complete dancer. And we're still all on that journey, right? I mean, we've traveled a bit, but I'm sure we have a lot more to go. And obviously with the young ones, they are only starting their journey. So they have to get there. It's a slow but sure process with commitment.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like that's a great model, and life experience is definitely more important and in the dance field than I think a lot of people give it credit for. And so grateful for all of you, for your wisdom. And I would love to see some of that wisdom through your experience in your bodies with our experiential activity. So since we've generally been talking about this like trend versus Tehraav and aging and maturity and all of that stuff, for our experiential, I have a 30-second video clip that I wanted to share. And it's by this dance company called Ayana Dance Company, who I'm actually a big fan of their work, even though it's like super fast and everything. I feel like it's just very visually appealing. So I wanted to share a video clip of that with you all, and then also invite us to kind of explore dance and movement to that same music within your own style. So whether that means adding more Tehraav, whether that means like finding the soul of the music and connecting to that, as some of you were talking about earlier, that's kind of going to be the basis for our experiential. But I'll start with just sharing the video clip from their YouTube.
चाम्पेय गौरार्थ शरीरकाय कर्पूर गौरार्थ शरीरकाय तिम्मिल्लकायै च जटाधराय नमः शिवायै च नमः शिवाय कस्तूरिका कुङ्कुमचर्चितायै चितारज पुण्यं विचर्चिताय कृतस्मरायै विकृतस्मराय नमः शिवायै च नमः शिवाय.
Okay, I feel like that was a very good representation of the trend. So I really want to see what the Tehraav might look like from all of you. So I'll put the link for the video in the chat so you can kind of listen to the music as well. And I'll give us maybe like 10 minutes or so. Like obviously it doesn't have to be super choreographed, just kind of allow yourself to take whatever approach you're feeling with this exercise, and there's no right or wrong way to approach it. So yeah.
चाम्पेय गौरार्थ शरीरकाय कर्पूर गौरार्थ शरीरकाय तिम्मिल्लकायै च जटाधराय नमः शिवायै च नमः शिवाय कस्तूरिका कुङ्कुमचर्चितायै चितारज पुण्यं विचर्चिताय कृतस्मरायै विकृतस्मराय नमः शिवायै च नमः शिवाय.
Yay. I loved watching you all. It was so cool to see everybody's different takes and interpretations of that. So thank you. Thoughts on the process?
As I said, I texted, I didn't resonate with this version. We've all heard this is Ardhanarishwara Stotram. It was too jinchak for me. So I was keeping that element out and just focusing on the lyrics when I was doing it. So my movements are to the lyrics.
Well, other folks?
The lyrics are a big part of it, and by the time I heard one word, the fourth line was coming up. So that was the toughest part of the whole exercise for me.
I focused on the lyrics too. I just checked the repetitions, how many repetitions the song is, and then went to look at the lyrics. I'm actually involved in choreographing this piece, but I feel totally blanked out because it's now a new thought again. So it's beginning all over again, and I don't want to combine the two thoughts. I want to keep this separate from what I already have done.
For me, I always believed a good dancer must do any kind of dance. I had this thought anytime, but now because I've not touched these kind of songs for a while, and now if I have to dance, maybe I might teach it for a student, but my body is not first functioning and cooperating in that speed, and the lyrics have so much value. When you think about all that, and it's for me now, at what stage I am, I'm not able to connect and perform. Maybe I can think and, as I say, mindfully dance, but I don't think so. I'm physically can finish that song in that speed and that pace.
So my approach to this, I kind of approached it like we do in Mohiniyattam. My brief training in Mohiniyattam helped me. So what we do in Mohiniyattam is, just to give an example of Aliveni, Aliveni, Yendu Chevu. And the song is already slow, but the way Mohiniyattam is choreographed, we take the first word and just extend it for the whole entire line. And I keep doing Aliveni, Aliveni, Aliveni for 3-4 lines of the repeat of the entire line. I don't even come to Sakhi. So I kind of used that philosophy here. And I took one aspect of Shiva, and I literally did 30 seconds of just showing his hair and the Ganga. So my approach was, obviously we can't take every single word and show it out. So just take one aspect that I can connect with, and whether it matches the music or not for this exercise, that's my that's how I'm going to deal with it.
Yeah, part of my intention and curiosity actually with this exercise is to see if music that is trending or reel worthy, for lack of other better term, can also be done with Tehraav. And it sounds like there was some challenge for all of you, which is interesting, because that's just something that I'm sitting with, is like, can we do more intentional Tehraav, Iritam kind of stuff to music that feels fusiony or that feels fast, or like, maybe not what one would traditionally do more Tehraav or Abhinaya for. Thank you so much for humoring me with this activity and for being on this episode of Chai Side Chats. I think I've really loved all of our conversations that we've had today about a variety of things, and really appreciate you all sharing your wisdom in dance, in life, with all of us here today. So thank you so much for being here.
Hi everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Chai Side Chats with some of the lovely DC dance teachers and our fun trend versus Tehraav experiential activity at the end. This was our season 2 finale episode, so we are going to be taking a bit of a break with new episodes of Chai Side Chats. But in the meantime, do like, share, and subscribe to the Creativity Awakening YouTube channel. Follow our pages on social media, linked in the description below. Catch up on some of the previous episodes of the show, and stay tuned because season 3 of Chai Side Chats is definitely coming soon. Thank you so much.